When my Nikon CoolScan LS-2000 had come in, the box was a little bit damaged and it seemed like some bits were rattling around inside. As it turned out, the back plate of the stepper motor had broken out. The peg had pushed all the way through it and broken the whole thing off. Even the clipped mounting plate arms had been snapped. It turns out that was because the unit had attempted to drive the chassis all the way to the far end, pushing against the far wall until it finally broke. As you can see here, I'm applying some silicone grease to the screw peg of the stepper motor. The original grease had gotten gunky and junky, as it typically does with age. I'm pretty sure this was another reason that the unit had busted out the end of the stepper motor. All of that grease seizing into this black goop like you see here. Definitely not good. Ugh. Oh god. Fucking gross. It's like clearing off a tape belt. It's just disgusting. Anyways, we take a little bit more on the opposite end so we don't get our hands all gross. Slowly screw back in that stepper motor screw center peg. And with that, we're pushed back up against the trolley there, and we can hopefully put the cap back on just long enough to slip something in between it and the frame. Okay, yep. Carriage can move backwards. I'm sure that'll come back to bite us later. Let's turn it on. And it will start moving things, or at least hopefully. Ah, there we go. And air's out halfway through. So that whole chassis isn't moving back fast enough. It's supposed to make the entire trip from the front to the back in that allotted time. Since it didn't make it all the way to the back, the unit returns an error. Here you can see the trolley's not quite all the way. Let's let that go all the way to the far end. And undo our plastic job here. Gonna have to screw that all the way back in now too. It seems like the chassis is crashing into the end. Probably the infrared optical sensors at the back just getting covered with dust and debris that I'm sure it's not used to. And push that back in. And let's test it again. And with that, we have our motor drive mostly working. Let's insert the film adapter. This is my strip film adapter. And let this thing boot up. When the light is flashing green, it's either performing an operation or self-calibrating. Solid green means you're good. Quickly blinking green means there's an error. You simply just have to slowly insert the film into the opening of the SA-20, and it will do the rest. First thing the unit does is spit the film most of the way back out, and this is because it wants to look at just the first cell to establish our thumbnail. So it spits most of it out and then slowly reels it back in, counting how many of those individual holes on the side of the film have passed. Right now it's scanning. Unfortunately, there's still something wrong with this. My LS-2000, and I'm sure you may have noticed it here or there, has an issue with its sliding rail. The nut that is supposed to move along that linear drive is completely free from the chassis housing, which means it basically just spins freely currently against the chassis as opposed to being locked in place by a small plastic cowl. Now, what I'm going to have to do is take that stepper motor off of its mounting and dip it underneath the chassis and get it locked in again, just like they probably did at the factory. So let's hope that works okay. Okay, we have a much clearer idea of what we're doing now, right? So that nut there should not be fully visible. The top half of it should be obscured by the black plastic of that chassis. However, whatever it did to break the end of that stepper motor must have also popped this thing out of where it was supposed to be. And with the stepper motor freed up, we slowly let it rest at an idle spot here, and we managed to accidentally slip it under that cowl. I've enhanced this little bit here so you can actually see what's going on roughly. See, now it's locked. So we're going to just need to reattach with that nut caught in the cowl. Now with that back in place and the stepper motor fixed to the frame again, we can go ahead and turn it on. I've left that little CD folio there so you can see the blinking green light. And, of course, the carriage crashes into the end again. I guess I knocked enough dust or some bullshit onto those optical sensors. Always fun. This was easily solved with an industrial blower. Okay, with those cleaned out, let's try this again. Stepper motor activates and starts moving forward. Still blinking steadily. It reaches the other end. You can see it flashing its LEDs right now. Oh, it stops in the middle, moves everything up, and keeps going. And stops. Perfect. Okay, cool. And with that, I reinsert the SA-20 into its housing and quickly realize that I really want the faceplate on. A little bit easier to see that green LED. I'll put the SA-20 back into its little receptacle there and plug it in. And let's let it boot up and perform its first test at startup. And we've got a solid green, so it's all good to go. To start off, we're going to restart the Windows ME computer. I had turned the computer on before the LS-2000, which obviously doesn't actually assign it a SCSI value or anything. Not a very smart thing from me, but I restart it with the LS-2000 on so everything gets configured correctly. I'll fade in a little picture-in-picture here so that you can see the monitor a little bit more clearly from a head-on angle. Pardon the flicker here. We just wait for Windows ME to finish booting now, and we should get to the desktop shortly. Give it a few minutes to load here, especially with how many icons are left on this desktop. Yeesh. We were not kind to this as kids. the desktop actually pop in here, and we'll go down to Start. But not for this help program attempts to connect to something that hasn't existed in a long time. Let's make a shortcut to this on the actual desktop so I don't have to chase through the Start menu quite as often. Up, left, come on. No, left. There you go. Open that up, and we don't get any errors, and we actually get kicked directly into the device control panel here. Now, to actually use this control panel, we need to load strip film first. And I happen to have a little row of 5 of them, some of my favorite ones of the jukebox and lava lamp. I have equivalent scans from an Epson V300 so that we can compare and contrast them to a modern scanner. The SA20 slowly inserts, and we get our first thumbnails. Well, our first blank thumbnail. Now we need to preview. Fingers crossed. The SA20 ejects the film and reinserts it 1 frame. We're going to speed up the scanning process here. It takes a moment. And we get the data over SCSI. There we have it. My first proper scan. Apply some auto level control stuff. And we have a pretty snazzy looking thumbnail. Let's tweak a couple values and rescan. That's a good looking image. Now, at resolutions this high, scanning takes a significant amount of time, which is why you'll notice the lines on the screen running rapidly by and the light blinking frantically. We're currently in about 100 times fast forward. You can see the progress bar there slowly filling and the clock slowly ticking up. I believe all in all this took about 15 minutes. It's a pretty slow scan, though the image that it creates is insanely large and very, very detailed. In this case, I did not run this with ICE or anything else. I simply ran it at 12x multi-sampling with a 12-bit color depth. And now we've finished the scan and we can go back to the host Nikon scan program, kind of Windows 3.1 style tiling. Zooming in, we see an incredible amount of detail, even on this old monitor. It definitely seems quite red and orange though. I honestly can't remember exactly how the scene looked and whether or not it was bathed in the orange and red light from the lava lamp or if it's a bit more subdued like the scan you'll see from the Epson. We'll go ahead and make a folder for our positives here, our scans, and we'll name this lava lamp test or something to that effect. That is the end of my tale with the Nikon CoolScan LS-2000, or at least the tale of repairs. I'm happy to say that this thing seems to be working more or less perfectly, just as new from 1998, and paired with the SCSI card that I have, I should be able to get it to run under Windows XP as well when I eventually upgrade this computer. I plan on doing that sometime in the next month or two. I think everything might run just a little bit faster when it's not, you know, on Windows ME, because I don't think that helps a lot. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you'll see me soon with a new thing. Hopefully a comparison between the Epson V300 and the Nikon LS-2000. Anyways, thank you very much for watching.